Hey guys, it's Kate, and I hope you're having a wonderful day today. I wanted to come back with another intuitive abstract painting thing and ended up really liking how this one turned out with some negative painting that I did. So I'm starting in with my charcoal pencil and then with my Posca marker. This is the big fat one, and I love the marks that it makes. And I'm just really doing a bunch of mark making, loosening up, and just starting to go to town. And then I grabbed my silicone tool with some acrylic paint, and I'm just putting in some layering and a little bit of glazing over the top of my marks. And I'm trying to keep it pretty transparent so that you can still see the background coming through. So I'm trying to choose colors, putting them on thinly, and just getting this page started with some color coverage. So I'm doing a few different shades of pinks and reds as my background, and then I'll be going in for some more color, more layers, and more marks, including with my silicone tool here. I really love using this when I put down a layer of paint. While it's still wet, you can go into it with your silicone and make some interesting textures that let the background kind of come shining through. In that same light pink, I'm using my stencil over the darker background, and I'm going to kind of swap that with the darker pink over the light. And I've been kind of feeling some florals lately, and this one didn't really turn out abstract at the end, but I got there in a very abstract way. So just grabbing some different stencils and adding some texture here and there to my paper. And I'm just not really thinking about what I'm going to put there yet, but I'm just covering the back with lots of interest. And I even grabbed my alcohol ink to add a little bit of extra color, but it sort of faded. And so now I'm going in with this really lovely sort of aqua turquoise color. And I'm putting that into some areas with my brush. This is the first time I've broken out my actual paintbrush. And I'm just adding some texture, more marks, and still thinking about what I want to do. And you know how I love my circles. So I just started kind of putting them all over the paper. And I'm just thinking about, well, really, what I want this to turn into. So at this point, I'm just covering the page with these circles and waiting for something to kind of jump out at me. And I haven't used a bunch of colors yet, but I do decide to add some more of that turquoise on the page. And you can see it's just really messy and busy looking and lots of different marks. But one of the things I really like about this process is when you're going through and making all of these marks, it just, I don't know, it's something about the almost meditative quality of it, I guess I could say. Just really, well, one, it's relaxing and kind of therapeutic to just kind of make a paper messy, but then you sometimes just have something jump out at you. And I think it was around this point where I just started thinking, boy, this might make kind of a neat little bouquet of flowers. And so then I started doing these more spirally marks and just sort of getting a feel for how it might look. And that's when I grabbed my silicone spreader and started carving out a bit of a bouquet where I had put some of my circles, and then I also left space to leave a container. And it's kind of interesting how it just sort of comes to life in front of you, and it's just, I don't know, a really fun process. And I'm just sort of picking out what I want to keep and what kind of marks I want to get rid of. I wanted it to be a nice full flower bouquet, and I'm going to go back in some of those circles, but I wanted to get my basic shapes down. So now that I've got my outline done, I'm sort of working on adding some extra layers to my painting itself. So I'm going back in with that silicone tool and carving out my container or vase, however you want to say, and adding some pink where I had the white to kind of warm it up a little bit, add some color, and I'm going over and clarifying more the outside. And now I can really focus on getting some nice pops of color with those flowers. I really like that pink and yellow mix with the turquoise kind of, I don't know, being in a supporting role. So, and then in some spots, my paint is mixing a little bit with that charcoal where it's coming through from the back and it hasn't been covered up by any paint yet. So, that kind of adds a little bit of extra value to the flowers too. And so now I'm just sort of looking and seeing where I want to put my little flowers. And then making some green to put in those little gaps. And I'm just mixing the yellow that I had used along with that aqua. So I'm keeping the color palette pretty limited, but with the mixing, I'm getting some different colors and different values. And I keep going, painting like a leaf. And then I'm just kind of reminding myself that I want to keep it very loose. And so I would kind of scrub with my brush a little bit and just make a green patch more than a green leaf shape. And so it just kept it very loose and kind of forced me to just keep with the relaxed, and kind of abstracted style of the painting. So now that I've kind of got some of my flower shapes in there, I'm working back on the vase again and then grabbing my charcoal marker to add some dark back in. I really wiped out a lot of my original blacks and I really want to add that dark value back into the painting, and it just adds that pop of contrast, and the contrast is where I want all of the attention. So I wanted to really bring those flowers forward and make them pop more. So I'm adding some black and some plain white. You could do that with other colors too, work with a really dark red or a really bright yellow. For me, I just went with black and white, and then I worked on deepening some of the colors that I wanted to pop. I really wanted to have a nice yellow, so I went over those again and made sure they were nice and bright. And I am going over some spots again with white on the outside to just carve out more from the background and make it a little bit more of a contrast around the edges. And then with my silicone tool, I'm just sort of adding some more texture here. Almost like little stems or some kind of just texture in a bit of the background. I'm just playing around here, seeing what actually works. Just because you put a mark down on your paper doesn't mean you're going to like how it turns out. So, part of this is really just experimentation and figuring out what works, and then you can remember that for next time. So, I I put the lines there, and then I ended up taking the lines off and everything. But I really love how this one turned out, and I might do some more experimentation on this type of painting. I really like negative painting with watercolors, and I'm trying to do that more with acrylics instead of, your layering doesn't have to be adding, it can also be subtracting, and don't forget that. And so here is my close-up of all the marks and contrasts and colors. And I thought this was a really fun painting to do, and I hope you decide to do something like this as well. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, keep creating.